message in your book that you want readers to grasp?
Yes. The theme of the book, or the message, is that everybody can make a difference. That if you see something that's wrong, it's up to you to do something about it, so that it doesn't have to be as big as, say in the book, starting a hospital or anything. It can be as simple as you see a kid in school who's being bullied. And go and help that child. Be that person's friend. Is there a child in school that doesn't have friends? A new child. So, yeah, that's the theme, that anyone can make a difference.
Do you travel much concerning your books?
Do I what?
Travel much concerning your books?
I have traveled, not much. Mostly I do school visits in Ontario. I do travel. I go to California a lot because I have my kids, 2 of my children live there, and 2 grandchildren. But for the book, the visits I do and the readings are almost all in Ontario. I was in Montreal last year for Book Week.
Did you learn anything from writing your book, and what was it?
Oh, I learned an awful lot. I learned a lot of Canadian history. I didn't grow up here, so it gave me a chance to research some of the people I had heard about, like Lester Pearson. I learned about people who are very obscure, like the man I mentioned, Roger Ogata, who is not famous, but he did such amazing things for the Japanese-Canadian community. I learned about just about history and social issues.
What is your favorite theme to write about?
My favorite theme to write about? I like writing about human rights, but that's such a broad theme. But I try to incorporate it into all my books, even my fiction books. I have a book, Ice Cream Town, which is a novel, and it's about a young boy who comes to America in 1920 as an immigrant, and how he learns to fit in and learns the difference between which kids to hang out with and which kids not to hang out with, and how people try to use, take advantage of new immigrants. So that's a theme that runs through all my books.
When did you first realize you wanted to be a writer?
When I was in the 4th grade. Took me a long time.
When did you write your first book, and how old were you?
I wrote my first book about 35 years ago, but that book never got published. It's still sitting there. Maybe it will. And then I wrote another book that never got published, and then I did a lot of writing I was a teacher at first, and then when my children were growing up, I started writing for newspapers and magazines, and I wrote a lot of feature stories and human interest stories, and then I started writing for businesses, advertising, and I did public relations for a number of years, but I never gave up the dream of writing for kids. So about 10 years ago, I said, I'm going to really, really take this seriously. And I wrote my first book, and since then, I've got 11 books published. I'm working on 3 new ones right now.
What do you like to do when you're not writing?
When I'm not writing, I love to go to movies. I love television. I like being with my family, playing with my grandkids, and I love swimming and walking, and cooking.
As a child, what did you want to do when you grew up?
I wanted to be a teacher, and I wanted to be a writer, and I always wanted to write kids' books.
Do you hear from your readers much?
I do, not a lot, but I do hear from them. I love getting an email from a kid saying, I liked your book, or going to a school and having the children give me comments on the book. It's wonderful. That feedback's really important to writers, because we work alone, and, you want to know if you're getting your message out. You want to know if the people you're writing for like what you're writing and learn something from it.
What author inspired you to write?
Well, when I was a kid, I loved Little Women, Louisa May Alcott. I always kind of thought I was Jo, because we had the same color hair, and we both liked to write. I like John Steinbeck. I like a lot of writers. I love mysteries. I haven't written one, but I'm going to. My first book was a mystery, but it didn't get published. So I love people like T.D. James and Elizabeth George. Those are adult writers. And kids writers, all of them. Marie Sendak, and so many.
What books have influenced your life most?
What books have influenced my life most? Wow, I read so much. When I was your age, we didn't have much on television. Was still pretty new. There really wasn't a lot on. We went to the movies sometimes in Saturday, but we all read. I'd go to the library every week, take out 5 books. My friends and I. That was our we read everything, and we didn't have as many books as you have now. So we read the same books over and over again. I don't know if you've ever heard of the Enid Blyton series, but I read the whole series about 5 or 6 times because I would read a book and then I'd go back and reread it again. I loved Heidi. This is the Little Women. And then I started reading adult books pretty young too because we just didn't have the variety of kids books you have today. There was no such thing as YA. So,
What was the hardest part of writing your book?
the research, making myself sit still and actually stay at the computer and write because it's more fun. Sometimes it's more fun to read other people's books than sit there and write. And I'll think, oh, I'm just going to take a break and write. Next thing I know, it's 3 hours later. But the hardest thing really is doing it. Getting that research done and then using the research in a way that it doesn't read like a history lesson. I want it to be fun and interesting to read and still kind of like when you make a healthy meal and you hide the carrots and you hide the peas, you know what I mean? That's what I do when I write. I try to get the information and the important things blended in a way that you're going to read it and absorb it without even noticing.
Where do you get your ideas from?
I get my ideas everywhere, really, from the newspapers, from just life, from reading other people's stuff. I don't mean I plagiarize, but, I'll read something and think, boy, that's an interesting topic. I'd like to know more about that. And just from my own imagination. And from life stories. My first book, Ice Cream Town, is based on my father's experiences when he came as an immigrant when he was 9 years old, and I sort of used that as the basis for the book, and then just fictionalized it from there. It was a pleasure.